Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks. We are once again in the workbench. We are working on our lifting body aircraft here, and we're just going to start this video off right away in the build editor. What we are working on right now is some doors for the sides. So you'll notice that they're kind of built on a slant, which makes it a little trickier, but I'm trying to make sure that they line up evenly on the side of the wall. So that's kind of why that is that. You can see they level out nice and flat when you fold them down. But yeah, that is kind of what we're going to be working on for the first half of this episode. We're going to actually get some guns crammed in here too, so I'll show a little bit of that. And honestly, a lot of that will kind of get done off camera, but we're going to be working on these doors, and then later on we are going to start working on some of the refueling probes. So we got to get our drogs in, and then later on we got to get our probes. But later in the episode, we're going to start working on our drogs. In that way, we will be able to pump diesel and jet fuel out of the wings to any aircraft we'd like that can connect to them. So that being said, that we are kind of going to be working on a lot of that today. What I will say is we've got to get some weapons on it, and that is kind of what we're going to be working on in the later parts of the episode. We're going to get a gun that folds down from the ceiling here, and oops, looks like I'm a little stuck. But yeah, it's going to fold down from the ceiling there. It's going to be a 2 light autocannon turret that can be manned by a person. It won't be remote controlled or anything like that, but it will tuck out of the way pretty well. One downside to this is unfortunately it stops you from spawning a container inside of the airplane, at least 2 containers. You can spawn 1, so later on when we get to all of that, it'll be able to carry 2 containers max, but in 3 different locations. So 1 on the left, 1 on the right, and 1 in the center. So you can still spawn the one in the center, but not the one on the right and the left. Real quick, I kind of wanted to get some railings in, so I'm just going to grab this. This is an XML pipe pack, and you guys, if you search this on the workshop, this is one that I use quite a bit. I try not to go too crazy with the XMLing, but you know, there is a time and a place for it, and this is definitely one of those places. I do want to get a railing on this door, just so you don't fall out of it as easily, but that's kind of what we're working on now. I am going to let the time lapse roll a little bit more, and then once we start working on the gun and the drogue, we'll start talking a little bit more about what we're doing. For now, I'm just trying to make this door look a little bit better. So real quick, before we get into that, if you do like these build videos, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Keep coming back for more. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much what we got in store for today. So I'm going to quit yapping, and I am going to let the video play. All right, well, you can see we got the doors put in, and this is pretty much how they're going to function. I'm not going to bother sealing this door. This aircraft is not going to be sealed already, so we're not going to worry about any of that, but I think it's looking pretty good. I was thinking about maybe trying to lock these into place, so we're going to throw some connectors on here real quick and see if that works. I just kind of wanted to see where they've got to go. So that looks like it will work. We'll see if we can get away with locking these doors. I did mention in previous episodes that if you can lock things in place, I would generally advise that you do that, but it doesn't always work that way. So we're going to just kind of experiment with this and see. I heard the click, which is good, but it does look a little crooked in there, and I don't want that to cause issues. So we're going to get rid of that. But real quick, I wanted to cut over to a different little set of footage so you guys can see I did add a weapon up there. Now, I didn't record that because it was a lot of me kind of in and out of the workbench making it fit in there. It was really hard to cram that gun up in there. But it does work. There's no funny business with the hitboxes or anything like that. It's got locks on it already. So you can see pretty wide range of motion for this, and we're going to have some ammo storage right above it. Right now it is using WASD. I will change that to mouse, I promise. But I did just kind of want to show this off to you guys. Again, I know a lot of you kind of like the more militarized style builds and stuff with weapons. So there you go. There's a little spot for wing / door gunners for you guys while you guys are flying, and probably more likely when you're in VTOL mode. But yeah, so that's that. We've got to work on some other things coming in the coming episodes, such as the cockpit and stuff that is starting to get pretty rough up here, but we will take care of that later on. I just wanted to get this thing out of the workbench and out of the hangar, so we're gonna go fly it real quick and test out some of the guns we just added onto the wings. So obviously right now it's a little shaky, a little rocky, and that is something we'll definitely fix later on. I just kind of wanted to get it in the air and check this thing out before we kind of worry about a lot of that stuff. So later on, when this thing is a lot more complete, it will be much more stable in the air when you're just not controlling it yourself. And looks like I should maybe change the limits on the gun there a little bit. We did nick the door. But yeah, so kind of going back to what I was saying, it will be a lot more stable, a lot more easy to kind of run around and walk around and whatnot. That is something that annoys me with this game, and I hope they fix it. But enough of that. It is time. We are going to move on to the drogs. So I'm going to try to kind of put a little bump in the wings down here. Off of this bump, we are going to have obviously our fuel feeds, but it's going to go into a winch that's going to release the drog and let the drog kind of fly behind the plane. My plan with this is that when you winch up, I want it to bring the drog back into this little pod, so I don't want it to just kind of be flopping all over the place. And we do have to worry about the fuel tanks there too. So couple little things we got to worry about, but right now I am just going to start building an enclosure around this for our drog, and I'm just going to play with shapes a little bit to see what I kind of like, what looks good in my mind. All right, so we got the drogs in place and they are more or less where they're going to be and more or less finished. Right now what I'm doing is I'm actually working on the piping for them. So if you do recall, we're carrying two different types of fuel on board of this aircraft. So what we need to do is we need to get both a diesel feed and a jet fuel feed over into these drogs. And then obviously a couple of different valves just to switch between the fluids. But we're going to actually take this right in here under the wing and then send it back into the wing. So this little fan back here is actually for the yaw in VTOL mode. Kind of a weird way to do it, but that's the way I did it. So that's kind of why there's a little fan tucked up in there. It doesn't really do much other than just turn you while you're in VTOL mode. So we right now are just going to be working on some of our diesel and jet lines. The other thing that I'm trying to do while I do this is get a hookup for the jet engines themselves, because previously we've just been flying with infinite fuel on. And I do that a lot of times with my planes, not usually my boats, but with my planes, just because I like to make sure they can kind of fly and do what they need to do before I go all in on the decoration and the building them. So I try to figure out all the mechanical trouble first before I get into the rest of the project normally. But anyways, what we're doing here is that yellow line is going to be jet that's going to feed into the wing, and then this dark red line is going to be our diesel. So the diesel sits underneath the airplane's cargo bay, so kind of the couple blocks between the cargo bay and the lower part of the aircraft. That is our diesel storage. It has about 17,000 liters if I remember correctly. So I do believe all three of these tanks are about 17,000 liters. So we have two of jet, one on each wing, and then one in the middle of diesel. So basically we just need to kind of add some feeds to our refueling setups, and then later on we'll have to obviously come back and add more feeds for refueling the plane on the ground, as well as I'm going to add some back towards the ramp where you can reload or refuel any creations that you have in the vehicle or near the vehicle while you're in VTOL mode. So we've got not a ton of piping to do on this, but there is a lot of fuel piping to do on this aircraft, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what we're going to try to get a lot of that figured out right now, and also make it look good. All right, so we got our primary fuel feeds for the engines in, and right now I'm just kind of working on some vents for the gas tanks. If you guys are newer to this game, you have to vent the gas tanks, otherwise the pressure will cause fueling issues. So this is just a little bit of detailing you don't need to do. I'm just adding a little sign here that says fume, and that way you know that that's where the fumes are coming from, which obviously should probably be a little bit further away from the engines, so that's kind of why it's out here. And I'm not super happy with it being off-centered, so I'm going to move this down quick, and we're just going to use the color swap tool to make that nice and quick. So that is one more little piece of our plumbing pie that we've got done. I've got to add one to the bottom tank, the diesel tank, so that one can vent also. But that is going to be a lot of the piping we need to get done for now, at least. The other thing we need to do, obviously, is the valves and all of that going into the drogues. And then we're going to actually have to send jet fuel down into the diesel tank later on in order to do our boom. If you didn't know the difference between the two, the drogues they're basically like this parachute on a hose that comes off of the wing, and then a fighter jet with a probe can come up and they can connect to it. So those are usually that's going to be a lot more common way of refueling aircraft. There is also the boom method, And that's when you see like the big KC-10s, KC-135s flying around with the giant articulating boom in the rear of them that other planes will fly up to and connect to. So we're going to have both of those. The boom we're not going to do in today's episodes. I just wanted to get the drogue kind of taken care of, but all of this fueling stuff that we had to do for the drogues, we're essentially going to have to do for the boom, just in reverse, because we're going to be near our diesel tank instead of our jet. So we're going to have to pump the jet down to that and then add some more valves and that kind of thing. But that way we have both methods of refueling, and it should work out nice for us. So I know I'm still kind of yapping quite a lot. This is close to the end of the episode, so if you made it to the end, thank you so much. We're just going to go on one quick last test flight, and I am going to kind of check out the stability on these drogues. So we want these to be obviously as stable as possible, just because another plane has to dock to them. That's a little tricky to test right now just because I don't have a lot of the control systems into the plane yet, but I just wanted to make sure they kind of come in and out of that little pod nicely. And that way we can kind of worry about the stability a little bit later on. But it looks like they're working for the most part. I'm kind of just flying real low, flying around, trying to make sure this thing is still all kind of in order before we move on to doing some more detailed stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the building I have for you guys today. So if you stayed to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That helps out our channel so much. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. So thank you so much again, and I'll catch you in the next episode. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.